We've made it to the middle of the week. It is Wednesday. It's time for some reflecting on what's gone on over the past couple of days in wrestling. Well, I'll start off with Monday. I watched and reviewed GCW's Fright Fest, which turned out to be a fuck fest, really, if you really want to get into the real deal of it all. And that was a good time. Had a great time live tweeting it. I even had a good time just writing up the review of it. And I recommend, if anybody needs an alternative to Raw or to any other kind of wrestling out there, whether it's AEW or WWE, really, you should check out GCW. Fright Fest was a great pay-per-view. They've had some really good ones lately. If you go back and watch No Sleep, if you go back and watch Two Cup Stuffed, anyone that they've had this year is definitely worth your watch. And I'm really excited to be going to Wombat and Long Live GCW in December, which is just a month away. That's going to be my first two GCW shows. Definitely will not be the last, as I'm going to The Collective in April 2020. And they keep making announcements almost like every other day now. They're making announcements on shows. So it's like this early Christmas present where I'm just looking forward to everything that's going to go on that whole weekend and wondering how the hell they're going to get all of that shoved into one weekend. Seriously, if you go on Twitter and if you look up The Collective at The Collective 2020, you will see there are several shows that weekend. We have one that's for the culture, which I think is going to be so groundbreaking, honestly. You've got all kinds of talent. AJ Gray is behind, seems like he's the mastermind behind this. And what's going on is you've got all kinds of talent from the black community, and I'm pretty sure from others as well, but mostly featuring that culture, the black culture. And there's never been a show like that. So this is going to be something really new. Looking forward to that, definitely. There's also a few just fringe shows, if you really want to call that fringe. I think it's slowly seeping into the mainstream, what GCW is doing. But they like to be considered the outlaws. They like to be considered on the fringes of wrestling. So if you're going out to Tampa in April, and I'm sure, people budget for this. They spend their money. I've been to several WrestleManias, and your money gets spent pretty much where you're going to go, and you plan it way in advance. But if you happen to have time, say, for example, if you are deviating from the regular WWE WrestleMania schedule Thursday through Monday, I recommend, if you're going to WrestleCon or any separate events, check out The Collective. I think things are going to be fabulous next year. So I'll see you there. Going back to what's in the wrestling world right now, following up on the whole Jordan Myles thing, looks like he's doubled down since Sunday. I had my say on what was going on a couple of days ago, and now it just seems like he's really doubled down on his stance. Good for him. He doesn't seem like one to back down and necessarily apologize. And he did get out there and say some things that I necessarily did not agree with, but that's only because I haven't had his perspective in the whole thing. I haven't, been side by side with him through his whole indie run and through his whole NXT run. So he's seen some things that we have not seen. He's got his perspective that he wanted to share, and we may not all agree with that, but then again, that's the culture we live in. People are going to have their say, and either you learn how to respect it or just be quiet about it. And for now, I'll just say I agree with him on the shirt. I agree with what he said, not necessarily with what he followed up with about Jay Lethal. I don't agree with that. But then again, like I said, I don't know that situation 100%. And only he does, and maybe Jay Lethal. So I leave it between those two and let the man have his say. That seems to be the most fair way to handle it. Will be something, though, to see how this carries out. I've heard rumors, and of course you're going to hear rumors everywhere in wrestling. We're back to that 90s thing again where everybody's coming up with rumors, even if they have to make it up. Heard rumors that Vince McMahon is considering releasing the guy. And of course that would be one of the rumors that comes up. I don't know. I don't know where that whole thing's going to go. Maybe Jordan Myles would be happier back on the Indies. It sounds like he would be. So I'll be looking at that. I'll be keeping an eye on that, see where that goes. And maybe he will be somebody we see at For the Culture next April. Don't know. Other things going on. I saw, or read rather, and I guess I'm looking at it right now. Seth Rollins, lightning rod for controversy lately, has gone on the record and says that, and this is the quote, this is the byline that they're using, it's 2019 and I don't know what wrestling looks like anymore. He was talking with Corey Graves on his podcast. I think it's After the Bell, yeah. And Seth went and said that. He's, pretty much what he's saying behind that is the times they are changing, basically. And he's in a position now where he feels like he's done what the people, what the audience has wanted, and yet he's still hated for it. I don't think Seth is really looking at it the way that the people are looking at it. I think what audiences have been clamoring about, what their main argument is, that the Hell in a Cell ending was just a shitty one. It didn't necessarily have to do with Seth Rollins or his skill set or how he works. It didn't have to do with The Fiend or how he's being booked. It was the match and how it was booked. And I think Seth is taking that personally, or at least, maybe he's acting like he's taking it personally. You never can tell with how they do these days. But what he said, what he's gone on the record to say, is that he doesn't know what to expect from fans anymore. And that's, I think that's a valid thing to say. But like I said, I don't think Seth is looking at it the way it should be looked at. I know he wants to take that company line and toe it. And if you're going to do that, then yeah, you're going to take offense to what people say about the finish of your match. But if you take that into consideration and say, okay, maybe it's not me that they're criticizing, maybe it's just that match, then, he really doesn't have much of an argument there. But if you go and you look at the signs, there was the sign, Seth is not cool, or hashtag Seth is not cool. He does get booed. And that goes back to what I've been saying about that top guy position. And he kind of needs to take that in consideration too. I'd like to hear him talk about that. As the top guy, and he might have addressed this already, I'm not sure, I just haven't seen anything out there yet. As the top guy, you're taking on that target sign. You're taking all of the people's criticism and all of their hatred, and you're having to face it. And he's not the only guy that's done that, okay? There's several that have come behind him and rolled with that. I think it's interesting how he's dealing with it. My first reaction would be not to go on podcasts and complain about it. You can use that to fuel you, which I think Roman Reigns did. And I definitely think John Cena was the master at that. I don't think Cena necessarily went on the record as Seth does and just stated right out he doesn't know what to expect. Cena was, he really took that in stride and on multiple occasions said the people are going to do what the people are going to do. Boo me, cheer me. That was Cena's mantra for a very long time. So Cena knew how to handle that. And I think that's why as far as the years go by and the tides turn, Cena's very much loved now. And that might be absence makes the heart grow fonder. It might be he just happened to win the crowds over, at least most of them, with that attitude, boo me, cheer me, at least I'm here. So it's funny to kind of put that up against what Seth is doing right now, going out there and saying, I don't know what you guys want. You're hurting my feelings. I don't know if that's the way to go about it, but, maybe Rollins has some kind of master plan and he's going to fuel this for a heel turn. That in my estimation, that is great fuel for a heel turn. That's what The Rock did. The Rock never came out and said they were hurting his feelings, but he used the die Rocky die sign as his motivation. So I don't know, maybe that's what Seth Rollins is leading up to with the hashtag Seth is not cool. Maybe that will lead up to something. Maybe he's making it his own thing, not necessarily following up in The Rock's footsteps. But for him to go on Corey Graves' podcast and just bring that up in the way he did. I don't want to necessarily say it was whining. I'll say it was his way of venting that was very different from what's been handled before. I don't think anybody ever has said it flat out that it hurt their feelings. So maybe that's just part of the era that we live in. Other things that are going on, you have AEW Dynamite tonight, and you had AEW Dark last night. Still going strong. I watched NWA Power as well. The shows that they're putting on, still great shows. I comparing this, just comparing what I saw on Raw. I did go back and watch Raw after I watched Fright Fest, and of course the big thing, the most interesting thing, is the Lana and Lashley storyline and Rusev. I it is what it is. I consider it humorous. I consider it comedy. I like it. I don't know necessarily where they're going to go with it. Maybe they're waiting for a big payoff. Maybe it's Survivor Series. I don't know. Maybe they're waiting to hold it out a little bit longer. But this can't be the only big storyline that they have. That's what I'm getting at. We can't build a whole show on that. Yeah, now back 20, 25 almost years ago, that would have been a great side segment in the Attitude Era. But no, that would not have been the end of the show, So I wonder what else WWE has for us, because we're always, we are that consuming audience. We are those people that say, what's next? What's next? Give us something more. You can't end a show with that. Well, you can and get people's attention, but then you have to wonder, okay, what's next week? You've made this something huge. You better follow it up with something huge as well. So what are we going to see next week? Are we going to see Lana and Lashley getting married or going to Vegas like Triple H and Steph did back in the day? Or Lana announcing she's, pregnant? I didn't want to go there and say that out loud, but I kind of think that's where they're going with this. And hopefully they are. That's kind of funny. But WWE really needs some greater storylines in addition to this. If they could put as much energy into their other storylines as what they're putting into this right now, with the whole, gives it a real talk show, Jerry Springer Maury feel. And I kind of see them doing that with Lana announcing she's pregnant and, who's the daddy, even though they just did that with Maria Kanellis and it went nowhere. Maybe they're trying to make up for it with this. Don't know for sure. Crown Jewel is tomorrow. I said I was going to be live tweeting it, but of course work schedules change, and I won't be able to live tweet it, but I will definitely go back and watch it. Speculation that Ric Flair is going to take a bump. He's going to get physical. Be interested to see if that happens. So we'll be watching that, and definitely watching Dynamite tonight. Looks like we got Rick and Morty being promoted, their new season coming up on AEW Dynamite, so that's going to be kind of cool. A lot of things coming up, so it's an interesting time to be watching, and just keeping that in mind on social media. It seems like things have kind of calmed down since the whole chaos that it was on Sunday. It looks like it was big upheaval with what Jordan Myles was saying, but of course, things calmed down, and here in the next couple of days we'll have something else that shakes everybody up. But it was nice to see the hashtag for the culture unite at least some people, and I did see a lot of unity as opposed to some of the lesser people out there just using that to fuel their hatred. So just to let you know, there is some good out there on social media. You just have to kind of look for it and kind of tune out the nonsense and look for the good. And of course you have to do that in every situation in life, but wrestling Twitter does have its good side, no matter how hard you have to look for it. All right then, in the meantime, everybody enjoy the rest of their week. We're making it down toward the downside of the week. Have a very happy Halloween, whatever you plan on doing. I plan on staying in and watching Uncharted Territory, which has got a really, really good card stacked up. You've got the premiere of my boy Mance Warner. He's going to be taking on Nick Gage. It looks like they've got 100,000 thumbtacks. If not, maybe they're going to sneak in a few more on that match. So that's going to be a good time. And If if you have IWTV Live, make sure you watch that, live tweet it with me, and everybody just have a good time.